creative space to play and to practice, explore, or just be immersed in creative activity for the joy of it, for the pleasure, for relaxation, for reflection, whatever that outlet is for expressive exploration, whatever the medium is, it's so important to have that. And something that I have found over the years is that that space has to be defended in a way that is that's kind of sacred time for you, and it is often the very first thing that falls off your plate when other things and demands of life come in. Playtime and time to be creative is often the first thing that gets knocked off. Not because it is not important, not because we don't enjoy it, but there's something often confronting, revealing, and vulnerable about sitting with an instrument or a book or a paintbrush, whatever the tool is. There's something when you allow yourself that time and you don't necessarily have a plan or expectations of what that space is to be like. There's a level of openness and receptivity to meet yourself. There can be things that bubble to the surface or come to your awareness, or things that are part of the kind of subconscious that arise or are revealed through that particular channel of expression. And I think it's an interesting aspect that, if things get busy or life gets stressful or demanding, we that is the kind of focal point then of often the emotional space or the psychological space being kind of busy or tense or frenetic. And it's actually those points where having a means of creating a little fissure or turning on the tap for that creative energy to flow can help alleviate some of those maybe more challenging expressions or symptoms of stress, or just being kind of overwhelmed, or a feeling of busyness, a feeling of having too many thoughts rattling around the mind, or scattered focus. And to have that space where you can actually let some of that go, and that there is an impetus actually to create that is innate, but we need to create the opportunity for that to be facilitated by actually being present with an activity. And it doesn't mean that the activity has to be well structured, or that it has to have a particular focal point or outcome. It's just about giving yourself that space to move, to dance, to draw, to write, whatever. And because of this confrontational element that's there, I think this plays into a lot of the kind of justification that we often find ourselves, repeating these stories or ideas about, I can't do that, I'm too busy, or I don't have enough space, I don't have enough bandwidth, I don't have enough capacity to be creative or play or do any of that. I can't. Life is too demanding. There's too much happening. I'll get to it when I've got some time. And what I found is you don't get to it when you've got some time. How often do we get to a point where, again, unless we have specifically created and designed space in the calendar and cleared everything off the deck, that we then have this window of uninterrupted time? That comes by design, because life is busy and there are other responsibilities and things that always seem to arrive at a point where you were hoping to have a little bit of space to do things. So actually, although it can feel more challenging, building in more frequent opportunities for creative practice and playtime is a way to sort of, it's like dipping the pen into the inkwell and letting yourself be in that immersive space. Is it 5 minutes? Is it 10 minutes? Is it something that you allow yourself to get lost in and go into flow state, and then, time passes and then suddenly you've been there for a few hours, if you have, the luxury of that kind of space within the structure or confines of the other demands on your routine. But something that's regular, it's like making that play date with yourself. And actually, the more that you are doing that and tapping into that space, the more you see that there are opportunities to reframe this idea of what does it mean to be creative, or to give myself time to be creative, and that actually you can have and tap into that quality of expression in lots of different activities. It doesn't have to be limited to an art form. It could be the way that you go about a task. But I feel like that is also something that is possible when you're in a kind of state of overflow, when you have an abundance of creative energy, specifically because you have been making time to be in that space, to connect with that feeling, and to actually let that be something that flows out with the boundary of that time that you've allocated for that, and it actually goes into the way that you prepare a meal or whatever. And yeah, it's just a reminder, for myself, as well as to share this reflection, in the hope that it's, it resonates, or it's something that other people can relate to as well, that you have to defend your creative time. You have to ensure that there's at least one point, in your day, in your week, where that is time for you to do something for yourself expressively, that is not about a work task, or it's not about a caregiving task. It's not about an emotional labor task for anyone else. It's time for yourself, and it's really important, and it fills up your cup. It nourishes you, and yeah, this idea of being potentially confronted with the truth of our emotional space, or how busy we are, or how much demand or pressure is being placed on us by, external expectations or responsibilities. Maybe if those are the kind of things that are coming to the surface, maybe those are things that are actually important to take note of, and that actually what it's telling you is something about the balance, and something about the capacity and energy that you have, and all of the things that are pulling you in different directions. When you're deeply connected to something, regardless of what other tasks you're doing, you can find yourself unable to stop thinking about that thing, or there's something always processing in relation to that in the back of your mind, like a project that you have with a deadline. Even if you're not working on it in that moment, you kind of are working on it in that moment. There's bits of your attention and energy that are being consumed by that in some way. And actually, if we are designing creative time and playtime with this emphasis on allowing there to be space for creativity, it kind of creates this opportunity where the creative energy has a place and a possibility to flourish within us and then overspills into everything else. So that actually becomes the thing that is informing, shaping, giving life to other tasks. You know, that time that we allowed ourselves to draw or to write maybe then nourishes and translates into a report that we have to do or a presentation that we have to give. There are skills and tools and ideas and insights and reflections that come from the wellspring of that creative place, and they kind of flood and transcend the boundaries of these other things that we're doing. So that's something that feels important to mention and to recognize in terms of the positive, you know, side effects of that. And yeah, personally myself, I'm about to kind of go into a more intensive creative period, and in order to actually create the space for that, because there's been more balance or emphasis in kind of learning, cognitive land, business development land, it means that I've not been able to put as much time or nourishment into my own creative practice. And as an artist, it's so crucial for me to nourish that space. Otherwise, you know, it's like not watering your garden, not providing the nourishment and nutrition that you need to flourish as a being, as a person, and you know, as a practitioner as well, because the nature of this work is holistic, and the creative practice aspect is something which directly informs the facilitation, and it also directly informs the research and development aspect of this as well. So if the creative space is not being nourished to my satisfaction or desire, then these other things, they do suffer, because ultimately that's the kind of space where insights and things are revealed, or next steps, or you know, it's kind of the compass point to keep you on course for your intended destination or overall direction of travel. So I am about to go into a more deeply creative phase in my own work, and that means the way I'm showing up here is going to be slightly different. Um, Spending less time actually on social media, and doing kind of more reflective stuff that's actually allowing myself to tap into the insights and knowledge that I'm self-generating through my creative practice, because I feel like that is of equal importance and value to share that, as well as the kind of more cognitive processing stuff that comes through as well. So expect more of that from me. And if you have any questions in general about designing your creative play space, and you would like to speak about that and get some support with that, I've been building systems for myself to, you know, help make the entry point into creative work more accessible and more enjoyable, and that's something that I've found to be hugely beneficial. So if you want to have a chat about that, let me know, and I will speak to you all again soon. Take care.